Hi, welcome back to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm Robert Winters.
Yes.
So after a very nerdy discussion about city council rules and subcommittees, maybe it's time we talk a little bit about
Oh,
garbage.
you know what we didn't mention,
What?
but the public comment part. That took up a lot of time. But anyway.
Yeah,
But anyway,
all right.
but
Another day. We'll
Yeah.
do that. So we go back a long ways with recycling related matters.
you before me, I think.
I think I was with the volunteer program, but I think we first met actually.
Oh, right, the volunteer
when you
program, and
joined-
then
you
I
and
joined the
Sarah
committee.
Spademan, I think,
Oh my
joined the
goodness,
recycling
that was when it was evening
committee
because there were two separate.
back in the old
one
days.
was for business, one was
Right. So the bit of the short history was we did a volunteer recycling program from about 89 to 91. Became a citywide program, and with that came
Well, they hired Jan as the first
Janicetti was the
recycling director.
recycling director,
Yeah.
and it became a curbside program. But some of us who had been involved in the volunteer program continued to do things.
We'll stay on the committee.
Stay on the committee,
They
but-
combined them. Recycling Advisory Committee. Then
Right.
started meeting. Yeah.
So I was contacted a couple weeks ago by Martha Henry, who's actually on the
Oh, she's on the current
recycling
committee. Yes.
committee, saying, like, in advance of the fact that I think is in April, we're going to be
April,
going
the
to
first week of April or something.
we'll be
Yeah.
doing the
25,000 additional households 12 and under. Not
citywide
age,
collection
12
of
units and under.
organic
Yeah.
material.
Right.
People say compost, but I always say organics because it ain't compost
Well, it's
until
food waste.
mixed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Food waste collection, right? So anyway, so that's coming. So I figure, Martha
so
is
she
she does
contacted
writing
you?
and whatever.
Okay.
So we met at the library, had a bit of
Oh.
an interview about this because of my role with the composting, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I
The backyard compost.
Backyard
You were
compost,
Mr.
yes.
Compost.
I was Mr. Compost.
You helped people
right?
set them up and.
Oh yeah, did it? Yeah, we had a great time
Yeah.
actually. I was trying to explain to her why, in fact, it was actually it was volunteer. You figure,
Yeah.
you should pin a medal on the guy for doing it, but I was trying to explain how it's actually a lot of fun. You meet a tremendous number of people doing things like this. So volunteerism has got some pretty good side
Oh yeah.
benefits.
Yeah.
You get invited into people's homes. You make a lot of friends. You get to see backyards you would never have seen before. And I did that we
Number
started,
of
I think it was 1992 was doing it, and I did it in earnest for maybe about 10 years.
Wow.
And, we put out, either my personally doing it or through the Public Works Department, we set out probably about 2,000
Really?
compost bins. Some of them were people outside of, like from Belmont or whatever. I remember one famous day where there was a pastor in a church in Belmont who gave a sermon all about the importance of saving the planet and doing
Oh, so you came
things.
to.
And then one day we just got this flurry of people coming to us for compost bins.
Were we the only people selling them? No other municipalities were.
Well, there had been a couple of women in Arlington who were doing it before I did it.
Yeah, because there's
That's
definitely
why I
a lot
learned
of
about that.
grassroots groups. Yeah.
And just like people in Somerville were doing the volunteer recycling program before Cambridge started it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's why I met Lisa Briccolaccio. She was the one who first essentially trained us on how to do a drop-off program back in 1989. So we had this conversation at the library a few days ago, like it was last Thursday, and it was all about the composting. And because if we're going to do a curbside collection, the idea was to look back at what have we done in the past, right? So anyway, I sort of told about my role about that, which was fun. But then I brought up something interesting. I thought it was interesting, which is that oftentimes when I would set up a compost bin in somebody's yard, we were deciding where to put it. We're looking around the yard, and I would see the old garbage bins, which was sort of an interesting thing. And I don't think Martha really knew about this history.
They've talked about it in the committee, but maybe.
So, which was that in fact, Cambridge had garbage collection, food waste collection.
Well, it was fats and grease. It was all. I mean, they wanted to keep the grease and fats out of the.
Well, they certainly wanted to keep that out of drains and whatever.
Yeah, and I think that was.
But it was just food waste, just generally, and
Yeah.
I think it was destined for pig farms. Right, until there were some public health reasons for its discontinuation. There were a lot of places that actually municipalities
More
would do
farms
this.
probably closer to the city.
Yeah, there were more farms. There were places where you actually have outlets for it, right? I know-
Slaughterhouse across the river,
Well,
wasn't there?
there was Pig Farm in
Yeah.
Weston, actually, right
Yeah.
as part of the Cambridge watershed at one point too. So maybe that's where some of it went.
Mm.
But apparently, there were all across this part of Massachusetts. This was common practice, and I still haven't been able to figure out the exact timeline, but I have some clues.
Okay.
All right. So after speaking with Martha, I said, well, let me go find some pictures, and just to sort of illustrate here. Okay. So let's show some pictures.
Okay.
Okay. So
Here
this is
we go.
picture show time here. Okay.
All right, so this is.
Now
what
this is actually
now?
from, this is a picture that's taken from, this is from one of the MIT libraries, the Roche Library, which has these sort of scenes from Cambridge in the 1950s.
Okay.
And what you're actually seeing here is not a rubbish truck. You'll notice these gentlemen, these rather interestingly clad gentlemen, are actually wearing rubber aprons. And because they were the garbage collectors. Now, garbage at that time referred specifically to the food waste. So you had 3 different job categories, at least 3, of waste. There were the ash haulers, so people who still, had
From the
coal.
coal, yeah.
You'd have to have your ashes hauled away. So there were people who would come and used to collect the ashes, and then they were taken separately. There was just regular old rubbish.
Is that what this is an awfully big can.
Right. Well, there were different sizes
maybe
for different settings, and I can
settings.
speak to that a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So this was the actual collection of the food waste. Now, because there was a lot of rotting, rather unpleasant aspects of
Smells,
this,
yeah.
especially in summer, often with flies following the truck from stop to stop to stop. The term that people use for this, sort of joking, they called it the honey wagon. And the honey wagon, of course, was a joke, and it was because it stank, and it was not exactly so sweet, right? But everybody knew when it was coming, and this is what it was. Okay, now so I knew about that. So what I did, and let me just sort of pop back a second.
Yeah.
We'll show some more pictures next, but. So I asked people, so when I would set up these compost bins, I would notice in people's backyards, there would be these, the leftovers of another era, which were these, you'd see a steel cap flush with the ground, and when you opened it, there was a big hole, concrete line sunk into the ground.
I see that now, yeah.
Right? And I was seeing them in yards all over Cambridge. In fact, in my own yard, there is the concrete liner. It's still there. It doesn't have the cap.
So people should look.
People should look, and there were some people when I actually pointed out, they said, "Oh, I never even noticed that was there."
Yeah.
Right, and there's a history to it. Okay, so let's take a look at a few pictures of what they actually looked like. Okay, so the picture you see here on the left was actually a photo taken a few days ago from a woman who lives on Orchard Street in Cambridge. This is right outside her back door.
And this is pretty big now that I see it, because these are her shoes.
These
so
are her
this
shoes.
This looks more like what that other
That's
photo.
right.
Yeah.
Now they were not all the same size,
No,
because if it
some were
was
much
for
smaller.
a single-family home,
Right.
it might be for a multi-family home. It might have served
A little
several
bucket.
homes. In
Yeah.
fact, the hole that's in the back of my yard, I'm pretty sure, served at least 4 triple-deckers, all
Wow.
jointly used the same hole,
That makes
because there
sense.
was the sidewalks all converged toward where the garbage bucket was.
Interesting.
So what they would do is I presume, they would come back with an empty bucket,
Yeah.
go in there, pull out the full one, drop
Wow.
another one in, and then take it out to the honey wagon.
How sustainable. That
It was
I
very
don't know if it was
sustainable.
I don't know if it was sustainable, because I don't know what happened after it.
Well,
but
pig
certainly.
farms, right?
Okay, all right.
But the thing is that it's interesting, because we're about to go into this new era in April, starting in April. And it's interesting to look back and realize that for many, many years, we actually had garbage collections separate in the city.
Right. But it was in your backyard, and they had to go in your backyard, and
That's
now we're
right.
giving you a bin, and you have to put it out.
It was not curbside. It was a serious labor involved, and this was not an insubstantial device.
No.
In fact, this is just one that was taken off of a website from some barn sale.
Is this what
This
it
is
here?
what it looks
Is this
like.
what was this
Right.
the inside of okay.
So you'd see it now just
Yeah.
flush with the ground with
Sure.
this heavy steel top. This way animals could not get in there.
Wait, did they take out there was a metal thing within this cement thing?
Right, so we'll actually see
Okay.
it in the other pictures. So
All
this
right.
is a complete intact,
I see. Wow.
what it was called a
container.
garbage receiver. That was the term used, garbage
Yeah,
receiver.
makes sense.
So you see there's the concrete liner with the
Yeah.
steel cap. And if we roll down just a little bit,
Yeah.
you'll see a little bit more here. So this is what it looks like from above.
Mm-hmm.
And what you see there is looks like a little foot pedal. So the homeowner would
Over
kick that.
here, you're talking about this?
Yes. So
Okay.
you could kick that with your foot, open that center,
Yep.
drop
Right,
your
yeah.
garbage in there,
Mm-hmm.
and then when the person came by to do the collection, they would actually pick it up the other way, pull it up almost like a handle, lift it up, and then reach in and pull out the liner.
So it's like a liner, metal liner.
Yeah, and that's actually
Okay.
what it was called, a liner.
Okay.
It was interesting, and I'll also give a little
Yeah.
more history of it, because when
Yeah.
so I put this information out there for people on Facebook,
Yeah,
of all things.
if anybody, look in your backyard.
Look in your
yeah.
backyard. See, so I got pictures and some interesting references.
Mhm.
But I got into it. One person, it's actually a person I know through the Volkswagen bus community.
Yeah.
A fellow named Dale Ward, who lives out in the center of Massachusetts. He said, "Oh, I remember those. We used to pick up him and his dad when he was a kid.
Huh.
He's like in his 60s now. When he was a kid, they used to pick him up from the F.B. Jones Company in Somerville. And in
Wow.
fact, I'll tell you that most of these garbage receivers, as they're called, emblazoned right on the
Does it
steel,
say
it says
F.B. Jones?
F.B. Jones
Interesting.
Somerville.
So they were the manufacturers.
They were the manufacturers.
Interesting.
So I don't know where the steel was made, but the thing is, they created the liners, matched them together, and then distributed them.
Hmm.
So he would, and his dad would actually load up a truck full of them to take out to Shrewsbury to sell at Spags.
Oh
right?
my goodness.
They were. This was a very common practice at
Yeah.
one time,
Wow.
right? So I sort of took an interest in it. I said, well, F.B. Jones, I've seen it. I've seen that on the caps before, F.B. Jones. Who is F.B. Jones?
Yeah.
In Somerville, where was it? So I actually found out.
You did.
Okay, so it's actually Frederick B. Jones.
Mhm.
And actually, if you scroll down a little bit here, I'll show you something that's really kind of fun. Right there, there's actually a link here, right?
Should I open this up?
Frederick B.
Oh,
Jones,
that's gonna be-
patent 1910 for garbage receiver.
Do you want to see that?
Yeah, why don't you just click on that here? And actually, you
Wow.
can click on the images over on the left. Let's see.
The
just
left?
click on the left, down
Where?
further. Left, right there.
Yeah.
You see those images? Yeah, just click on the image.
Oh, right there. It'll. Go.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that should either open up, right?
All right. So,
So
here's
what
a-
you actually see here
schematic
is
here,
a sort of
yeah.
like for the patent application, you actually got a
Mhm.
patent for these.
Sure.
It's signed Frederick B. Jones down
Yeah.
at the bottom there. And
Yeah.
it dates to about 1910.
Wow.
So you see the sort of the design of the cap and how that worked
Garbage
together.
receptacle, November 28th, 1911.
That was when it was actually
Patented.
approved.
Patented. Yeah.
So that's when the patent came about,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So
Wow.
I asked this fellow Dale Ward. I said, well,
Yeah.
where was F.B. Jones in Somerville?
Yeah.
So I actually found out that too. So
Where was that?
Well, if you go along where the community path is now in Somerville,
Mm-hmm.
which was a railroad line once upon a time, bordering right on what was then the railroad, there's Clifton Street, and I think it's called. Actually, I have it written down here, Newburn Street.
Mm-hmm.
Right, which dead ended at the railroad tracks, and he was actually telling me about a friend of his. I read something about a friend who had, where they used to bring the sand to dump it in there that they used to actually make the concrete
Oh, the
liners.
cast. Right.
So they would actually manufacture them there in Somerville at the F.B. Jones Company, which also made and sold ladders, etc.
So I have a question. I don't know if you know this, or who did the city? Were you required to have this in your backyard
No,
to
I
get
don't
your
know.
food waste
I
picked
want
up?
to find out. I'm
'Cause-
really hot to
'cause
try
that-
about this now.
Because that really would be quite an effort for the city actually dug the hole and although it sounds like you said, yeah, let's find that out. Because
Yeah, I
that to
wanna
me
find
is an
out.
interesting
Yeah.
aspect. Because
and-
we are paying for the bins that
Right,
you're going
but
to
it
get.
was all across the city, and
Yeah.
what you would find, like where my triple decker is, there would be 3 or 4 triple deckers. There were
Yeah.
actually 4, maybe even 5 triple deckers, all serviced by one. So there was
It's like the
a
city
large
would do it
hole.
then. Yeah.
Probably was all coordinated
And
with
then
the
they
city.
contracted with FB Jones probably.
Right.
Not the
So then
individual.
that's
yeah.
right. That's
But
right.
we should
So,
clarify.
and I don't know who put it in there. I mean, it's. I find it
Yeah.
interesting this sort of
Because
the
it's a heavy
changing times.
thing. Yeah.
100 years later, we will now in April we will
Yeah.
all get like or
Our
late
own little
March.
bin. Yeah.
We'll get like a
Well, the-
plastic bin or something, right?
Well, for indoors and then outdoors, depending on how big if you're a 3-unit, you'll get a little bigger one. I think it's a 35 gallon, whatever.
Right.
You,
But
you
it's
can
all
see
like
them.
portable
If you go on
plastic
the
ones.
Monday trash route, they've had it now for a couple of years,
Right.
more than that.
But it's just sort of interesting to sort of see the
Yes.
scale of it all. So once upon a
Right.
time, you managing the garbage, food waste,
Yeah.
with these like 100-pound
Right.
tanks that you sank into the ground, animal-proof, bulletproof,
Right.
honestly, you could have dropped an atomic
Yes.
bomb and it'd have been fine, right?
Yeah.
My house dates to 1912, and now I'm
Yeah.
thinking, so this was patented in
11.
got a 1911
Yeah.
patent, so this was like state of the art, you know. This must have been when
Yeah.
this was all getting rolled out,
Yeah.
right? So it would have probably been around the early
Be very
1900s.
interesting.
And I'd like to find out some more.
I'd like to know what the population was too, back then.
Right, yeah, yeah,
Because, you know,
yeah.
whenever.
But so anyway, so I kind
That's
of
pretty
It
fascinating.
was pretty fascinating to learn all of these things here, to actually get.
Did you learn this after you met with Martha, or?
You know, I remember being
yeah.
fascinated by
Yeah, you've
what
talked about
what I
this
had seen in
before,
the
yeah.
yards for
Yeah.
years, but I never actually pursued it.
To
so I
get
said-
to FB jobs.
Yeah, so I said, well, let me help Martha out. She's one
Yeah.
to put together an article which will hopefully come out and be popular.
So
in
is
advance of
is she
the
writing
program.
this to help with the PR of the program? Is it gonna be in the Chronicle, or is it
I'm not
for-
sure exactly. She
Okay.
did tell me, but I forgot.
All right.
Right, but I said, well, I'd like to popularize it as well. So
Yeah.
people are aware that it's, you know, we're in a certain sense, we're kind of rediscovering and reinventing
Yes.
better ways of managing waste.
Right.
Right?
I mean, back in those days, people recycled rags. There was the rag man. There was, you know,
That's
we
right.
did a lot more recycling of resources
We
back
did.
then,
Yeah.
because we didn't have all these plastics. We didn't have, and you used everything again. So it's sort of returning to that, but in
That's
a
right.
different model.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. You
Yeah.
know, the junk man would come by and
Yeah.
get stuff, whatever.
The garment district
Yeah.
was Harry the Rag Man.
Harry the
before
Rag
that,
Man was
and
exactly,
then,
that was the garment district.
exactly.
That's
And
exactly right.
it's
Yeah.
big industry.
Yeah. So I'm, you know, especially now that, you know, we were involved in recycling in the early days.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting sort of
Yeah.
being around long enough to sort of watch these things actually come to fruition,
Yes.
but then also realize that we are in many sense rediscovering something
Yes.
or a mindset. The arguments given today are different. Nobody would have
Exactly.
argued for we need
Right.
to recycle organic waste because of climate change.
Yeah.
That's an argument you wouldn't have heard in 1910.
But maybe also because they probably had even more rats maybe back then, and
I
they
think it
had
was
to
probably
really
rodent
secure
control.
them from
Yeah.
the food that was going
Yeah,
into
I'm sure
yeah.
rodent
Yeah.
control was probably a
Yeah,
big
a
thing.
big-
There was
a big factor.
There was a
Sure.
Actually, if you go back even into the 1800s, you know, you see the notion about sanitation. Sanitation was like a high priority. There were, you know, city engineering was, you know,
Well,
there
back in the day, you know, people threw things on the street. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
years ago when I was really into this, reading about the history of trash and garbage, and it only in the last probably 150 years that
Right.
it actually got more civilized about it.
well, people actually had legitimate fears
Yeah.
of epidemics being
Oh, sure,
spread
yeah.
because of, you know, rodent
There
infestations.
was stuff
and
on the
this.
street, and the women
Yeah,
had
oh,
to,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it just,
You know, honestly, even this, I've heard it said, maybe Bob Healy, when he was city manager, may have said this, I'm not sure, but why do we have street sweeping? Did we always have street sweeping and,
Oh, right.
and towing?
oh, right,
Was that
yeah.
always standard practice in the city? The answer is no.
So,
The argument I heard given was that, in fact, that was instituted because it was actually a public health problem when you had rubbish just collecting and
Right.
collecting and
On the-
collecting
exactly.
in roadways. And
right.
they used to have the hooky
That's what I
pokey,
meant, yeah.
right, who'd come by with the the barrel and
But there was no formal way of getting it, right,
Yeah.
right.
And so in terms of rodent control and
Mm.
you know, just general better cleanliness, so they decided to do the street sweeping. I guess in a sort of a related way, it also was a way of managing cars that were effectively abandoned on streets. Because
Mm.
if you're going to tow them once a month, you're also going to get rid of the abandoned ones.
But I wonder
suppose.
wonder how many cars there were actually.
Well,
on
once
the
upon a
streets.
time,
Yeah.
you know, and again, I'm not trying to encourage this as a new
Right.
policy, but
Yeah.
once upon a time, if you look around the city,
Yeah.
you'll still see the remnants of municipal garages that were all around the city.
Oh, you're right.
There
I
was
have
a-
seen them.
Behind
Yeah.
my house, there are some condos that are built into a building. There was
Mhm.
once a garage. So if you owned a motor vehicle, you garaged it there. You didn't have it on the
Actually,
street.
on my street too. I can think of two places that have like, so when you see a house that has like 5 garage,
Yeah.
you
would-
think that's what it was?
Yeah, because you could either
Yeah.
take it to a garage or you could have garages on
But
your
it couldn't
property.
be on the street.
Because they were, for the longest time,
Yeah.
you were not able to leave a car overnight on the street
Well,
in
in
Cambridge.
Brookline you can't.
And you still can't in Brookline, right? Okay?
Yeah.
But the thing is that what has happened, so this is the
Yeah.
problem of the bait and switch. So you
Mm.
change the policy so that you permit parking out on the street
Yes.
overnight, you know,
Yes.
relatively little limitation. That
Well, you have
takes
to have a permit.
right. You need a permit, but then the need for those parking garages went away.
Ah.
So the garages went away. Some of them were repurposed, like Lamplighter Brewery is now in a place that used to be a municipal garage. It was
Is that in
metric
Cambridge?
system. It became Metric Systems.
Oh.
I used to take my Volkswagen bus there sometimes.
That's a brewery now?
And now that's a brewery and a,
Oh, I
and a
didn't
sort
know
of
that.
club with a breakfast thing.
Oh,
Lamplighter
boy.
Brewing
All right.
Company.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't had their beer yet, but if anybody would like to, I'd be more than happy to sample that.
Okay.
But that was the garages, and they were all over. Up at Ellery Street and Broadway, there was garages. Some of them
Oh,
were then
yes,
used for
of
taxi
course.
cab companies
You're
for a while.
right. You're right.
But then, all that industry has certainly changed. So what's
Yeah.
fundamentally happened
Yeah.
is that all of those were garages that took cars off the street, got repurposed into housing. A lot of them became housing. A lot
Or
of them
some
became,
kind of manufacturing
or
places or other
exactly,
like warehouse type
They've
things.
largely just gone away. So it's not like you can say, well, let's go back to that old system of taking the cars off the street, because the garages don't exist anymore.
Well, you have very limited ones now.
Right,
yeah.
and it's very, very difficult to recreate that. So
Yes.
so
So you get rid of the cars.
well, of course, some people just want to wish them away,
Yeah.
and maybe
Well,
we'd all
limit
be
certain areas.
yeah, maybe the world will be better if there are fewer cars.
I could see that. I
I
mean,
could
I
see
don't have to
fewer.
drive through Harvard Square.
No,
I'd park on the outskirts.
I prefer not to, but the
Yeah,
thing is
right.
sometimes I'd rather have a car too.
Yeah.
But the point is that I wouldn't even have an option to put it someplace anymore,
Mhm.
really, because
Right.
the options were taken
They don't
away.
exist, right?
So that would be a bit of an unfair bait and switch.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's live with some fewer cars, but we
Fewer.
have to live with them to some degree for the here and now, I think, right? But anyway, so that's yet another thing that you sort of see when you look around the city,
Mhm.
vestiges of the way things were.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to rediscover the sort of the fewer? I mean, we were once. Remember, there's that wonderful book called Streetcar Suburbs that points out that a lot of suburbs of Boston, people didn't own cars, but they had a very extensive streetcar network.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What happened to that?
Well, to some degree. I mean, I don't think it was so much true in Boston area, though it might have been. But the motor vehicle companies actually bought up streetcar companies just to destroy them in other cities.
Yeah, we really made big mistakes when we started
Yeah.
building, highways, suburbs, and malls
Right.
out in places where you had to drive to. Because now everyone's wanting to
Right.
move back into the city, and the people that can only afford to live all the way out there, not in Weston, but I'm talking about they can't get into the city because there's not really good transportation.
So the thing is, if you want to rediscover the past and have
Mm.
fewer cars or no cars, you sort of have to bring back or substitute for
Better
some of the
public
infrastructure that
transportation.
once was. I mean, older people aren't going to be necessarily hopping on a bike forever.
Yeah.
So you want to have things like
Yeah.
streetcars, or some people might argue that the Ubers and the
Yeah.
the driverless vehicles will
Yeah.
somehow supplant this, and I don't know what the future
Yeah.
holds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right in the city, I think we do have a lot of we have buses, we have subways. I'm thinking more a little outside of the city,
Yeah.
where there's only maybe a commuter rail or.
Yeah, but even at
Yeah.
streetcar you could take streetcars continuously all the way up to Maine once upon a time.
Streetcars?
Yeah, actually, they were whole streetcar networks. You made
So
a
they were
connection,
actually instead of
you hopped on
highways.
another car. Yeah,
Wow.
so before people owned their own private motor
And they weren't
vehicles, you had them.
trains. I would call
No.
that a train.
Well, I mean, they
I mean, it's
were,
sort of a-
but it matter. You tend to think of a train as sort of something
A
that operates
separate
in a very
track.
separate
Yeah.
right away,
Yeah.
whereas the streetcars would actually go right through
Through the
very
street.
populated areas.
Good point. Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
still the where the trolley museum in Maine is because you could actually
Oh.
take trolleys up to New Hampshire,
Hmm.
hop on and go right up into down east in Maine,
Wow.
and there's still remnants of the whole system that was in place once upon a time. It was very extensive,
Yeah, we really shot ourselves in
Yeah,
the foot by
but
getting rid of that.
It's one of the things that sort of bothers me when people sort of want to just let's just wish everybody onto bikes and walking. Is that remember we always had other options.
Well, I think some of those people are really saying public transit is
Yeah.
what we need.
We had
not just
bikes. we had
Yeah.
horse-driven coaches and stuff
Mm.
once upon a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to sort of move away from the cars, you sort of have to invent or reinvent
Yeah.
the other transportation
Yeah.
infrastructure.
Well,
And it ain't going to be just bikes. Sorry to
Well,
break
no,
it to you.
Ubers and Lyfts are like, that's how young people are getting around. They're not buying their own cars, they're using Uber and Lyft for everything.
Forever. It's true.
Yeah.
It's really true.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember when we would go to a party or something when I was in college days. You know, the issue was, well, let's see, the T's going to be shut down
Oh,
at
yeah. Still,
at
and that's
1
still an
o'clock.
issue with that.
right.
That's
But
crazy.
but the thing is now
Yeah.
for most
Well,
people, if
that's
they're
true.
going out nowadays at the end of the
Yeah.
night, they don't think about that. They go,
No.
well, we just call an Uber.
But you still
and
have the
they-
issue of workers.
And you still have the issue
although
of
I think
workers.
some of those companies are trying to do buses or something for workers, or one of is it
Yeah.
Bridge, somebody's doing something that's
It's
hopefully gonna.
it sort of
help
circles
workers.
back to some
Yeah.
degree to the discussion about city council committees in a way,
Yeah.
in that rather than have people have a committee where they're going to talk about whether to separate bike lanes or whatever, there really does need to have a much broader discussion now about the future of
Transit.
transportation
Yes,
in all its
mobility. Yeah,
forms in
right.
the city.
It should be a mobility.
Envision Cambridge
yeah.
is talking about it some, but the council's going
Right.
to have to pick it up, I
Right.
think.
That's
And
right.
they really should start thinking about doing that
Mhm.
much more seriously.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're just going to be fighting about it
Yeah,
again, right?
yeah,
And
no,
this serves no particular purpose. So,
Yep.
anyways.
All right. So our last minute, what should we?
Well, let's see. So we got a few things coming up.
Well, there's a
Um,
city council meeting
yeah.
next week. There's a,
Right. I have a Central Square Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow. Don't remember exactly. I think we're going to talk a little bit about transportation
Okay.
in Central Square.
There's something the
there's-
Carl Barron. What is that on the 27th?
Later on the 27th,
All right, we can talk about that next week.
re-envisioning Carl Barron Plaza,
Yeah.
right? Which will not be the first time it's been
Yeah.
re-envisioned.
You
I
have
can remember
to RSVP
4
to
or 5
that.
iterations
Yeah.
of that space.
Yeah.
Just during my time at Cambridge. I think later on this week, on Thursday evening, I'm not sure, maybe it's 6 o'clock, I'm not 100% sure. Porter Square reconfiguration is under discussion
Oh.
up at someplace in Porter Square, so check it out. Later this month, they're going to, once again, I think on the 30th, talk about the Inman Square reconfiguration.
Mm.
So,
So is this all on the city calendar?
it should be on the city
Okay.
calendar.
All right.
So,
So
anyway,
we'll see
so
you
we'll be
next
back
week.
next week on Cambridge Inside Out.